But on day one, jurors heard the all-important opening statements from both sides. Let's take a look back at the prosecutor's open first. Prosecutor here, you're going to see describing the moments leading up to baby Abigail's death.
Anna brought her children, Zachariah and Abby, to be with the defendant and her children. They were going to have a fun day, enjoying the pools at Aulani. Anna was studying for an exam. Anna was a full-time employee working for Orthopedic Associates. She was going to school, studying to get a bachelor's in social work. She was also going through a divorce, and there were times when she needed a break. She needed time to study, needed time to herself. And so she asked for defendant, someone she thought of as her friend, to watch her kids. That morning, she dropped off her son and her daughter in the defendant's hotel room. She didn't stay long, not even a minute, because she didn't want Zachariah to have so much anxiety about her leaving. She didn't even get to tell her children goodbye that day. Anna thought it was like a normal day. She got text messages with photos of her kids enjoying the pool. She received text messages throughout the day from the defendant. One said that Abby was enjoying the lazy river, but that Abby was also sleepy all day. The last time she heard from the defendant was around 8 p.m. that night, February 23rd. Defendant said they were all at home and the kids had gotten a little sunburnt, so she applied some Bath and Body lotion. Anna responded at about 9:30 p.m., but didn't hear from the defendant again until 8:42 the next morning on February 24th. And that text message at 8:42 was, "Please come now." It was chaos when Anna arrived at 4675 K Street, the defendant's home, located in Aliamanu Military Reservation, not far from Wanalua Salt Lake area here on Oahu. There were ambulance, there was fire, there was police. Anna was told that her baby girl didn't make it. Anna had no idea what happened to her daughter. And it wouldn't come to light until nearly 5 months later, in July 2019, that Abby's death was no accident, but rather an overdose of Benadryl, the result of diphenhydramine toxicity. In this trial, you're gonna hear from Anna Lobisch, Abby's mom. She's gonna tell you that Abby was born a healthy baby girl, no medical issues, no allergies, no reason to have any Benadryl in her system. You're gonna hear from the first responders on scene, federal fire and paramedic Patrick Matsuki. And he's gonna tell you how when they arrived on scene at the defendant's house, it was a matter of seconds upon their arrival that they knew that there was nothing that could be done for baby Abigail. She was cold to touch, showing signs of lividity, which is the pooling of blood in her body, and she was already showing rigor mortis, the stiffening of her muscles. You're gonna hear from Officer Bo Grenander, the first HPD officer on scene, and he's gonna tell you about how he spoke to the defendant. She was calm, cooperative, able to provide information about what transpired that night. You're gonna hear from Brianna Calderon. She's the friend of Ariana. She was staying with the defendant and defendant's children in the days prior to Abby's death. She was there at Aulani on February 22nd and 23rd. And she's gonna tell you that they were all together at Aulani all day on the 23rd at the pools, with the exception of 30 to 45 minutes right before they left the resort. And it was during that 30 to 45 minutes that Brianna, Ariana, and Amaya, the three older girls, were enjoying the water slide away from the little kids who were all with the defendant. The defendant was caring for 4 young children. But it was also during that time that the defendant was calling for the older girls to come back. And when they did, there was an argument between the defendant and her adult daughter. They all had to head back to the defendant's house quickly. 3 older girls driving in one car, and the defendant driving the 4 little ones in her Ford Explorer. They left Aulani sometime around 5:30 p.m. that day. When they arrived at the defendant's house, the three older girls packed their things. They don't live here on Oahu. They're not from here. Amaya was heading back to New York, her home state, that night. The other two went to stay with a friend. Brianna was scheduled to leave Hawaii on the 25th.
Okay, so that was just a small snippet of the opening statement delivered by the state of Hawaii against this defendant. And so the crux of what they're saying is that they're accusing the defendant of taking care of 4 small children all at once. And she was doing it all by herself. And the state is saying that she gave the older kids iPads to play with to keep them occupied, but that she gave the baby, the allegation, she gave little baby Abby that fatal dose to make her sleep. But Abby never woke up. So let's talk about these allegations and can the state prove them? I want to welcome in criminal defense attorney Jessica Mashali. Good to see you, friend. Welcome back on the program. So what do you think of the state's case here, and can they get there against this defendant babysitter, in your opinion?
Well, the case is heartbreaking. I'll say that first. It's not easy to watch, even to think about. But I would say from what I'm seeing so far and from what I've read, the state's going to have a very difficult time proving this case against the defendant. I haven't heard any evidence that they have specifically that the defendant administered the medicine to the baby or what the amount was. I've also heard the state in its opening giving all kinds of evidence that there were many, many people who had access to the baby on that day.
Yeah, this is interesting because if it wasn't her, then who was it, right? We know the baby didn't just crack open the package and pour herself a glass of water and take the pills. No, apparently the medical examiner is going to be testifying for this jury that the baby had 2.9 milligrams of diphenhydramine, the active ingredient in Benadryl, the antihistamine, which is nearly 2 times a fatal dose. So that is the science we're working with. Jessica, I want to ask you all about the defense case. Stand by kindly, please. We're going to hit our first break of the hour. When we come back, more of this tragic case in Hawaii resulting in the death of 7-month-old baby Abigail.
Mr. Jeffrey, tell me what happened that night.
Killed my wife, I guess. I don't remember none of that.
You don't remember the fight with Lisa?
How many times did you hit her?
5.
You don't remember what her dead body looked like laying out there in front of you?
Not at all.
If you were me, would you believe you?
Interview with a Killer. Sunday, 8/7 Central. Only on Court TV.
On February 23rd, 2019, just before 11 a.m., it was the last time Anna Lobisch would see her 7-month-old daughter, Abigail, alive. But in the nighttime hours of February 23rd, 2019, it was the defendant, Dixie Denise Villa, who took Abby away from her parents and the brother who loved her most.
A brand new trial here on Court TV, the baby medicine manslaughter case. It's set to begin later today. We're showing you what happened on Wednesday with the opening statements. The state presenting its case against defendant Denise Villa. This is over the death of little baby Abigail. Let's go back and watch some more.
She could hear Abby crying while she was packing her bags. She heard crying from Abby. But when she left the house, there was silence. There was no more crying from Abby. And it wasn't until the next morning, the 24th, when Ariana was called, that they found out that Abby had passed. In this trial, you'll hear from Detective Ryan Kyle, the lead investigator in this case, and he'll walk you through the recreation that they did with the defendant. They did this recreation on February 24th, the same morning that Abby was discovered. And you'll have a chance just to see how the defendant described and demonstrated to the officers how the kids all slept that night. How the 4 young children slept in the same bed as the defendant. And she was gonna demonstrate how she had held Abby in her arms, wrapped up against her chest as they slept. And then you're going to hear about how the defendant found Abby in bed in the morning when she was woken up, when the defendant was woken by her son. And that Abby was face down, her skin was splotchy, and the defendant thought maybe it was just sunburn. The defendant called 911, started CPR, and first responders arrive. In this trial, you're not going to hear any testimony that someone observed the defendant giving a dose of Benadryl. There is no such witness. However, you are going to hear testimony that will convince you beyond a reasonable doubt that no one else but the defendant could have done it. No one else but the defendant could have given Abby that fatal dose of Benadryl. And that testimony that will convince you beyond a reasonable doubt is going to come from the experts. You're going to hear from the medical examiner, Dr. John Gates. He did the autopsy on Abby. He'll explain to you how Abby's body at the time of EMS arrival had shown pronounced lividity on the front side of her body. That means she died face down. There was some lividity on her back. So sometime within the 12 hours of her passing, she was moved to be placed on her back. Upon arrival, Dr. Gates will testify that Abby's body was already showing signs of decomposition. Green observed near the abdomen, stomach area of Abby. And what does that mean? Dr. Gates is going to say that means she was dead well before EMS arrived that morning. Dr. Gates will explain to you that Abby's heart blood had 2.4 nanograms per milliliter of diphenhydramine, nearly 2 times the fatal amount. And that's based on science and literature. You're going to hear from Dr. Paul Aiken, a pediatrician who specializes in emergency pediatrics. He'll talk about how diphenhydramine is to be given only under a doctor's care for someone Abby's age. They are very careful to give this medication based on weight. They are very careful to follow instructions on the bottle that says it is not for kids under 2, that if it's for kids under 6, it should be done under doctor care. Dr. Aiken's going to tell you about how diphenhydramine is a dirty drug and how there are other things in there that affect the body. He'll explain to you how diphenhydramine works, how that it's marketed for adults as a sleep aid, but not for kids. It is not meant for kids, and it is not meant for babies. And he'll tell you that very few medications over the counter are meant for babies. And when you look in the store, you can see them. It's limited, Tylenol, Motrin, very few medications available to babies. Both doctors will take you through the symptoms of diphenhydramine toxicity, what it means to have too much. And they were going to tell you that the symptoms of that intoxication would have been present within minutes. And one of those effects is the effect it has on your breathing. The airway of a baby is compromised because the signals in your brain don't work the same when you give too much Benadryl. Abby's body, her brain could not tell its muscles to move and roll over. So when she was face down on that bed, she couldn't roll over and protect her airway, even though she was a 7-month-old baby capable of rolling over. There is no reason for Abby to have had Benadryl, and the evidence will show that it was the defendant who was now without the assistance of those 3 older girls who left the house, and now she had to take care of 4 small children all by herself. So she gave the slightly older ones iPads to watch them all night, and she gave Abby the fatal dose of Benadryl to make her sleep. Except for Abby, there was no waking up from this sleep. And at the end of this trial, the state is going to ask you to find the defendant guilty as charged to the offense of manslaughter for recklessly causing the death of Abigail Lobisch.
All right, so there was The state of Hawaii's opening statement in this case against the babysitter. Does the state have a proof problem here? As even the prosecutor notes, nobody saw the babysitter administer the Benadryl. Let me bring back in criminal defense attorney Jessica Mashali and get her opinion on this. Jessica, what do you think?
I think there is a proof problem from what I see so far. What I think will be really critical in this case is expert testimony, because it is important to know when this medicine would have been administered, if there is medical, certainty that it was administered at the time while she was being babysat or not. There were a lot of people who had access to this baby, and I don't know what investigation they did, if any, on the parents. There's a lot of questions here, and I don't hear anything about an admission by the defendant that she administered the medicine. I don't hear anything about them finding the medicine or any evidence of the medicine on the scene of the crime. There's a lot missing here, and it sounds to me like they will have a proof problem.
Jessica, I appreciate your insight on this. We're going to hear the defense opening statement in a moment. I can't wait for you to analyze this for us. Stay tuned, Jessica. We're going to hit a break as we're nearing the bottom of the hour. Also want to let you know, we're still waiting for the closing arguments to begin in South Carolina in the burned alive murder trial. I want to show you a live look at the courtroom. As you can see, judge not on the bench yet, our camera on the seal. The jury's to report back at 9:30, so we'll keep you posted when those get underway as well. We'll be right back. Thanks for being with us on this Thursday morning. We've got a brand new trial here on Court TV. We're watching for you the baby medicine manslaughter trial in Hawaii. Denise Dixie Villa is accused of the crime of manslaughter for the overdose death of Abigail Lobisch. Opening statements got underway just the other day. We're looking back at both sides' presentations for this jury. So we saw the states. Now let's look at what the defense said.
Tell us what happened. Throughout this trial, you will hear me ask several witnesses. Tell us how Abigail Lobisch died. You'll hear from EMT, emergency medical technician. He will say, Abigail Lobisch was dead on arrival, and it is out of my scope to tell you how she died, and therefore, I cannot tell you what happened. You will hear from HPD beat officer, first one to arrive from the Honolulu Police Department. And he will say, I spoke with Denise, I spoke with Anna Lobisch, Abigail's mother, but it is outside of my scope to do further investigation, and therefore, I cannot tell you what happened. You will hear from detective. Detective, tell us what happened. Detective will say, I spoke with Denise twice. I interviewed other witnesses. I reviewed the autopsy report. But we found no evidence of what was given, whether it was Benadryl, Tylenol PM, or another antihistamine with diphenhydramine in it. We discovered no evidence of the form of what was given to Abigail Lobisch, whether it was a pill, liquid, or a topical cream. We found no evidence of when it was given, whether it was days ago, over a span of time, yesterday or today. We found no evidence of how many doses were given. We found no evidence of who gave it, and therefore, I cannot tell you what happened. We will hear from Denise's ex-husband. Ex-husband, tell us what happened. I cannot tell you what happened. I was off island, deployed for several weeks, and therefore, I don't know how Abigail Lobisch died. Brianna Calderon, tell us what happened. Well, Denise opened her home to me. She let me stay there for several days. We took care of Abigail Lobisch. We fed her the bottles that Abigail's mother gave to us. But I never saw Denise give any type of medication to Abigail Lobisch, and so I cannot tell you what happened. Forensic pathologist, tell us what happened. Well, he'll say, it is out of my scope to tell you how the diphenhydramine entered Abigail Lobisch's body, and therefore, I cannot tell you what happened. Pediatrician, tell us what happened, pediatrician. Well, I can tell you how diphenhydramine works, but it is out of the scope of my experience to tell you what was given, whether it was Benadryl, Tylenol PM, or another antihistamine with diphenhydramine in it. It is out of my scope to tell you what form was given, whether it was a pill, liquid, or topical cream. It is out of my scope to tell you when it was given, whether it was days ago, over a span of time, yesterday or today. It is out of my scope to tell you how many doses were given and who gave it, and therefore, sadly, I cannot tell you what happened. You will hear from Denise. As the government agrees, she cooperated with the investigation. On February 23rd, 2019, she fed Abigail the 2 bottles that Anna Lobisch had given to her when she dropped the baby off. She put sunblock on all of the kids that day at the pool, and she put Bath & Body Works lotion on all of the kids that night. She did not rub any type of alloy on any of the kids, and she did not give Abigail any type of medication. However, on the morning of February 24th, 2019, she did wake up to find Abigail cold and deceased in her bed. Despite the fact that she was frantic, confused, crying, and couldn't talk, she called 911, and they explained to her how to do CPR on Abigail. And she will tell you, unfortunately, I cannot tell you what happened. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen of our jury, at the end of this trial, we will ask you to find Denise not guilty of manslaughter because nobody can tell us what happened.